Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown and Dunkirk, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives, to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives.
Is getting vaccinated on your to-do list? We can help you check it off, because we make getting vaccinated easy. You've got this, because we've got you. To learn more, visit yougotthis.usaging.org.
From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hey everybody, how are you doing? Doc Hamels here on Chautauqua Sunrise. Hope you're doing well. We got a great show in store for you today. We're going to be discussing, I'm just going to give you a little teaser, so you got to stick around. We're going to be talking about something that happened 199 years ago. It's not quite 200 yet. So, and it has something to do with Chautauqua County, and you're going to say, wow, that's really cool. Stick around. All right, good afternoon to those of you in Europe or in Kenya or the Ukraine or wherever you are on that side of the world. Good morning to all of you that are watching us live here on Spectrum 1301 with Access Chautauqua as our main studio here in Mayville, New York. Beautiful downtown Mayville, New York. Justin, how are you today? To be determined. You never get to see Justin. He's over there on the sidelines. He's my magical messenger and all-around purpose guy that gets his coffee and does all kinds of things with the camera. So anyways, we appreciate you, Justin. And Jeff, good morning. He's on the other side of the wall. Randy's on the other side of the wall. And they're going to take your calls. Speaking of calls, if you want to call in and you have a question, a comment, you want to share something for your fundraiser, whatever it is, give us a call at 716-753-5225. Or remember, we're only live till 10 o'clock. So throughout the week, you can email us at Chautauqua Sunrise, all one word, at gmail.com. And we will get your announcements on. As you know, we have these yellow pages or whatever the color this is, manila. And we will get that on the air for you, free of charge. We have a small earthquake over on that side of the studio. All right, so anyways, don't be bashful. Randy's ready to take your call. And this happened last week, I think, or the week before. If you are shy, you don't want to talk to me directly, I understand. Just talk to Randy. He'll write down in the best English he can come up with, and then he'll secretly give it to Justin. Justin secretly gives it to me off camera, so like, see right what I'm doing right now? He slips me a piece of paper and we'll make your announcement. So we have a lot of fun here. All right, let's see, what else do I want to tell you? Good afternoon to all my listeners on WRFA 107.9, Low Power of the People. How's that for a radio voice? Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. You're going to enjoy this because it's just a great story today, as all our shows are, but this one is in particular, and I've been looking forward to it for some time because we have a story within the story, how we even got here today. All right, let's see. See if I can do this. I got to raise my finger this side. Everything's backwards. We have our pink bow, just as a reminder that it's October and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, men and women. Please, if you have any concerns regarding any kind of lumps, bumps, irritations, whatever it is in the breast area, get it checked out. Get the mammogram. Get the doctor to look at it. Don't wait, okay? Prevention, like we talked about last week, is everything. And, everybody starts to worry about these things, and so many times you can take care of it quick and easy, and you're going to have many healthy years ahead of you. All right. Deer alert, I have a note here. This time of year, the deer are on the move. They're getting to what we call rut season, and it's not unusual to be driving around the roads of Chautauqua County. Even in Jamestown, it's cities, Dunker, it doesn't matter. The deer are on the move, and just be aware that when you're driving, you might want to slow down a little bit at night, especially, and really scan the road because they're out and about and they are down our way, okay? If you happen to come through Chautauqua County along the lake, stop, open up the window, shut off your vehicle, and take a deep breath. Concord grapes. The season is just about over as far as I know. I think they wrapped up majority of the harvest, but I was riding my bike the other day and it was like, wow, just a super, super fragrance from the grapes, and that's really one of the economic drivers here in Chautauqua County is our grapes. So it's been a very low production from what I've been told because we had a frost earlier this spring, but nonetheless they did harvest, and wow, it's really great. All right, what else do I have here? So here's a little story. The other night, I got a little text message from my daughter-in-law, Britt, and we're all like on a group little email, text message, whatever you call it. And she says, look outside, Dad, and use your camera, the northern lights. I go, what? So I go outside, I'm looking, we live on the escarpment, so we look at Lake Erie. It looks like the ocean, that's how big it is from where we live. And I'm looking around and going like, oh, Britt, what are you talking about? It's just dark out here. I turn on my iPhone, my camera, on my phone. I look through the viewer and I go, are you kidding me? I thought I was seeing things. There it is. This is from my house. I took this right from our deck. And I know a lot of people posted this on Facebook. It was outstanding. And all these years that we thought that we were missing out on the northern lights and we couldn't see anything, nobody told us to look through our phones. So there it is. And I think there was a little bit still last night. So here's the secret. Look towards the north, look for the Big Dipper, look towards Lake Erie, whatever you want, and turn on your phone camera and just hold it up a little bit, and maybe you'll catch some of the northern lights the next couple nights. I don't know. But it was spectacular the other night, and we've been waiting for years to see them again. And that particular evening, as you look further up, going vertically, it got red, just like rosy red. And then there was blues, and oh gosh, it was just spectacular. So another cool thing about living here in Chautauqua County. Thanks, Jeff, for popping that up. Very good. All right, I have some announcements that I want to share with you. And these are the announcements I was telling that you can send in, or you can mail them to me personally. We move this stuff all over the place. So are you ready? Here we go, Jeff. Let's start slide 15. This is from our friend Dana Corwin, who is basically the director or acting director right now for the Office for Aging Services. They want you to know the following, that there's a flu clinic this week, October 15th through the 18th in Jamestown, hosted by the Chautauqua County Office for Aging Services and New York Connects. Flu vaccines provided by Wegmans Pharmacy. All right, when is it? Tuesday, October 15th, 1 p.m. Where? Euclid Garden Apartments, 28 Euclid Avenue. Then you have one on Friday, October 18th, 10 a.m., Covenant Manor, 23 West 3rd Street in Jamestown. So you got one on Tuesday, one on Friday. Get vaccinated. Get a peace of mind. The Aging and Disability Vaccination Collaborative, powered by U.S. Aging, has teamed up with community providers in your areas to provide easy access to vaccines. Now, if you have any questions, you can always call New York Connects, and the number is 716-753-4582. It's right there on the screen if you need it. For those that are listening on the radio, let me say it again, 716-753-4582. Bring your Medicare card or any other insurance, and in my case, in my wife's case, it was covered by her insurance, so no money had to be exchanged, and we got it right down in Westfield at the local pharmacy. Easy peasy. You can do the same thing at those two clinics, so there's no reason why you can't get to them, and as there are other flu clinics, we will announce them. All right, another friend of mine was on the show a while back called the Sunshine Charitable Fund. Sun as in S-O-N. If you will recall, this is an organization that is dedicated to providing, sadly enough, funeral services for anyone that loses a child that's under the age, I believe, of 18. So let me read what we got here. The Sunshine Charitable Fund is going to have its third annual Monte Carlo night, free hors d'oeuvres, music, there's a basket raffle. It's going to be held October 19th. That's next Saturday. No admission fee. Location, Sheridan VFW up in Silver Creek. So it's 2556 Main Road. And it's from 10 p.m. Come on, eyeballs. 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Doors open at 4:30. Games of chance start at 6 p.m. All proceeds help support their mission of defraying the cost of funeral expenses for families that lose a child. It's only 10 days away, and they hope to see you there. Actually, it's only 7 days. It was 10 days when this was written. They're looking for anything for table, bar, and food sponsors. And if you're interested, call our good friend Alice Conti at 716-640-7896. Once again, Monte Carlo night to support the Sunshine Charitable Fund. All right, the next one. I'm going to do my best to read these words because these movies, they have these names that have lots of vowels, and I try to do it Saturday morning, so I'll give it my best. Thank you. Nosferatu. Jeff just whispered in my ear. Nosferatu says a second opinion. Nosferatu, silent film paired with Radiohead albums to show at the Reg Linnaeus Center for the Arts. Nosferatu, it's going to be held Wednesday, October 16th at 7 p.m. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm just reading. Is a screening of the classic, oh, here we go, 1922. Look at that scary guy. Silent horror film underscored by Radiohead's Kid A and Amnesiac albums. 2 years after a now lost version of Robert Louis Stevenson's Jekyll and Hyde story called, oh boy, Der Johanneskopf, F.W. Murnau turned to another giant of Gothic literature, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Unlike the suave mustachio Count of Stoker's novel, Murnau's Count Orlok is immortally embodied by actor Max Schreck as a bald and bulbous ghoul, who writes these things, whose emaciated fingers cast fearful flickering shadows. Nosferatu with Radiohead is unrated and is 90 minutes long. You can see this guy. I mean, he's pretty creepy looking. Okay, upcoming movies at the Reg include Hunter Schafer in the horror film Cuckoo. That's on the 23rd. A special engagement of the Rocky Horror Picture Show on the 25th at 10 p.m. Then we show that late at night. Michael Keaton's return as the title character in Tim Burton's Beetlejuice. Don't say it 3 times. No, I only said it twice. Wednesday, October 30th. Oh boy, Jason Schwartzman and Carol Kane in the comedy Between the Temples, November 6th. Kate Winslet as photographer and photojournalist. Lee Miller in Lee. that's the name of it. That's November 13th, and only one-time special engagement of Cat Video Fest 2024, November 16th, with a portion of the tickets proceeds benefiting the Chautauqua County Humane Society. Woo! So if you missed all that, or you can get it, good news, go to YouTube after this is posted. You can play back the tape and get all that information. Hey, if you want to get your tickets, give them a call at 484-7070, and the tickets are $8 and so on. So check it out. Next slide. All right, this is an important one for all the veterans out there. We talk about the Dwyer Group quite often, and Cindy Reedy does a bang-up job of supporting things for you guys and providing lots of cool things. Get ready for an incredible opportunity. Veterans, mark your calendars for November 6th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. as the first annual Veterans Resource and Opportunity Fair is happening at Western New York Heroes at 1001 East Sullivan Avenue in Buffalo. Meet with top employers eager to hire veterans and explore career development resources that can help you succeed. Whether you're looking for job opportunities, career support, or workplace protections, this event has it all. A range of companies, including General Motors, Eaton Corporation, M&T Bank, and a whole lot more will be on site. You'll also get connected with essential stakeholders like the VA Veteran Employment Benefits Administration and so forth. There's limited spots available. Don't miss this chance to advance your career. Give Jennifer Siller a call at 464-5352. 464-5352. Now, I'm going to do a quick run through as far as some of the companies that are going to be there, and I'm going to go really fast here, all right? Astronics Corporation, Calspan, Conserve Accounts Receivable Management, Kubrick, Eaton and Chorus, Evans Bank, General Motors, Illinois Tool Works, Ingersoll Rand Technologies, Lind, Moog, M&T Bank, National Grid, University of Buffalo, programs of Western New York Healthcare Systems, helmets to hard hats for other services, Veterans Readiness and Employment. I'm just touching on a few of these. Good Skills Career Builder for veterans in Western New York Heroes. So, folks, check it out if you want. Again, that's going to be November 6th up in Buffalo at 1001 East Sullivan Avenue from 11 to 2 p.m. And finally, the last slide I want to show is that there's still time that you may want to get a ticket for the Westfield Mabel Rotary Gold Rush, and the tickets are $25 each, or 5 for $100. They're going to give a $1,000 prize away, which was sponsored by the South Ripley Solar Project. And from what I understand, they already have well over 37 other prizes that they're going to be giving away, certificates and money prizes, and who knows what they got in store. I will be emceeing the event. It's going to be at Easton Hall in Westfield, New York, next Saturday, the 19th. And the guys here at the studio may be there, so you can meet them as well, because they've got tickets. And it's BYOB. I got it right this time. You can bring refreshments of your own, plus they're going to have some dessert and non-alcoholic drinks included with your ticket. So it is a fundraiser that supports scholarships and other community projects throughout Chautauqua County that we support as a Rotary Club. So check it out, and if you want any tickets or whatever, give Katie Riley a call over at M&T Bank. Or no, not M&T Bank. She's at Lakeshore Savings Bank. There's too many banks. And she'll help you out. All right? We're going to take a little breather. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
It's fine that other people like you. It's more important that you like yourself. And I'm comfortable with every part of me. Meals on Wheels coming to my door as someone who's housebound assures me that I'm not forgotten. They care that I'm okay. My name is Asha Ida Bell. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
There's Meals on Wheels here in Chautauqua County, and I know a lot of the folks are involved with them, and if you are interested, you can look them up in the phone book, or Jeff, pop up New York Connects number again. You can call this number, and they will connect you to Meals on Wheels as well. So 716-753-4582. They'll connect you if you can't find the number for Meals on Wheels. Okay? So now for my guest. Folks, this is an interesting story we're going to share with you here in a minute about how we even got my guest here today. I want to introduce to you Chris Carosa, who is a fellow TV guy, writer, award-winning person in all kinds of areas, an investor guy. I don't know, what do you call yourself? Investor?
Investment advisor.
Advisor.
Yeah.
A money guy.
money
And I understand you went to Canisius College.
Well, I did as to visit.
Oh, you didn't go to Canisius College?
No, I actually went to another college.
Where?
In New Haven.
Oh, well, where's Canisius College come in? I thought I saw something about Canisius College.
I grew up in Buffalo, so I
Where'd you go to high school?
Well, I didn't go to high school because I moved away before high school. I went to high school outside of Rochester, Gates Chili High School.
Oh, I must be read some other famous writer's biography.
There is another Chris Carosa out there.
Oh, well, he must have gone to Canisius College then. I went to Canisius High School in Buffalo. That's why I was.
He's my cousin. That's
Oh, in Buffalo?
yeah.
Uh-oh.
I did a book signing at the Erie County
So you're
Fair.
not the famous Chris Carosa?
No, I'm the infamous one. No, I was doing a book signing at the Erie County Fair, and he came up to me, and he said, "Hey, is this you?" Yeah. Now I had met him when we were kids, so we hadn't seen each other. And he said, "Yeah, my English teacher was really amazed that I wrote a book and I was going to be appearing at the Erie County Fair." And I said, "Oh, wow, yeah." So no, he's got a different middle name.
Okay.
So
Well, Chris, let's tell everybody the story how this even happened for today. I'm sitting in my office as a town historian in Ripley. Did you email me, or how did this all get started?
I emailed you, and then I probably followed up with a telephone call because emails never work. I'm never sure if the emails go through.
Okay, but it did.
It did, yeah.
And you asked me some questions about Ripley, and I don't want to give the story away yet. And I did some research and provided you some of that, which wasn't too much because it wasn't that big much of the story that you were working on. And then the next thing I know, we started talking about what I'm doing with Oak Island Plus and Jim McQuiston, and then we end up on your show.
Right.
And then I said, well, if we're going to be on your show, you might as well come on my show, and so forth. But before we get to the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I already blew the thing about the investment advisor. But so you were born in Buffalo. Where in Buffalo?
I was born in Mercy Hospital on the 3rd floor.
And where did you live in Buffalo?
But I lived in Lackawanna, and then we moved to Blaisdell, Hamburg.
All right, so you were always sort of like on the outskirts of Buffalo.
Yeah, on the outskirts,
Okay.
snow belts,
So you came from L.A.
I came from yes.
That's what us guys from Buffalo used to call it L.A.
Yeah.
I was born in Buffalo and raised in Buffalo, originally on the west side, the old Italian
Okay,
border,
yeah.
over on West
I have
Avenue.
family who were there.
Oh,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
street?
I don't remember. It was my great-grandparents. I mean, I could tell you how the house smelled when
Okay.
I went there. So
And it always had a distinct smell, didn't it?
Yeah.
What was the family? Was there other, besides Carosa, was there other?
Butera is the other
Butera?
side. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the ones who live there.
Okay, and we talked a little bit about that we both are part Sicilian,
Right,
which is
right.
kind of cool. So on both sides Sicilian, or?
Just on my mother's side. My father is more central Italy.
Okay, but definitely of Mediterranean persuasion all the
Oh
way
yeah.
through.
Although I was always self-conscious. I never really looked Italian. I had blonde hair and blue eyes when I was a little kid.
What?
It got darker. My skin complexion's always.
Betsy,
been
is that
kind of
true?
Well, she didn't know me then, but
Oh, so she can't back you up. So.
and the pictures have kind of darkened, so I can't even go to the pictures. But no, and people always said you look like your great-grandfather. And I thought, well, okay, so maybe I am Italian. It's like, so I go to my great-grandfather's hometown, and people come up to me and they say, hey, you look like your great-grandfather. So what did my great-grandfather look like? I finally saw a picture of him. He didn't look Italian either. He looked like me. So I mean, it's like,
Well, they always say that a lot of the blondes were up in the northern part of Italy anyways. Did you ever get this when you were growing up? I'd say, we're Italian. My mother would smack me. She goes, we're not Italian. What are we? We're Sicilian.
yes.
Did you get that?
No, this is what I say. I say, are you Italian? Oh, I'm only half Italian. The other half Sicilian.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it was clearly a distinction. And the thing I learned was that Palermo, which was the capital of Sicily was older and bigger and stronger than Rome ever was in the beginning. Rome was just a little, dusty town, and then eventually,
Well, I once found a book, a 2-volume set called The History of Sicily. And I bought that, and I found out that there was once a Prince Butera.
Oh,
But then a lot of things happened, and they all became poor. So,
he was a gambler or something. So tell me more about yourself as far as what. So you were born in Buffalo, but then you moved away. So then you went to school. Then what happened?
well, I was always interested in astronomy.
Astronomy.
And I wanted to go to school for astronomy. And by the way, it's old school astronomy. Back in the day, remember when Pluto was a planet?
Oh yeah,
That kind of astronomy.
Yes, Pluto.
And they even teach you like
I remember him fondly.
like Betelgeuse is actually pronounced Betelgeuse
Oh,
in
it's
astronomy
German.
land. Well, now they also pronounce it Betelgeuse because it's.
Don't say it again.
Right. That's actually the first way. That's the way I pronounced it when I first read it. I was later corrected. But I went to Yale for college, and that was kind of by accident. I wanted to go to the University of Rochester, but my guidance counselor said, "Hey, you got good grades. You never know. Maybe you can get accepted into an Ivy League school." So she showed me all the applications,
Oh, my.
and she said, "Here, do any of these? You like any of these?" She says, "Oh, well, my favorite color is blue, so I'll pick that one." So that's how I ended up going
Oh, my
there.
gosh.
But I did major in physics and astronomy, and I actually was offered a fellowship
Wow.
to get a PhD that I turned down because I didn't want to be stuck behind a computer screen the rest of my life. Yeah. So then and this was in '82 during the recession, so I had no job. Well, actually, I had a job. I got laid off before I graduated. That's how bad things were back then. And I just kind of fell into a job at an investment advisor because I knew computers.
Yeah,
Took one computer course, so I knew computers.
you were the guy.
But that's how I got involved in investments. And after about a decade there, I started my own investment advisor firm. I should say, first I started a newspaper, a community newspaper. Sold that.
Of course you
used
did.
the proceeds from that to start the investment advisor. Did and continued to do pretty well as the investment advisor. Ironically, the person I sold the paper to, she passed away, gave it to her grandson. He ran it for a while. He didn't want to run it anymore. So we bought it back on Black Friday in 2015. Talk about the Black Friday sale. So we now have the newspaper back.
And the name of it?
It's called the Mendon Honeoye Falls Lima Sentinel.
You couldn't make it any shorter or any
Well,
longer?
there's 3 main villages or communities that we cover. Actually, now we cover 12 different ones. So originally we were adding the names, but then we said, we're not going to have 12 names. It's way too long. And for sure, we just call it the Sentinel now for short. But all the official documents still have the original 3 names.
So what's your readership?
We cover a very small community of 12 towns and villages. 25,000 people. That's all that live in there.
That's not bad.
So it's not a lot of people. That's our coverage area. Obviously, not everybody subscribes, but we do a lot online too,
Sure.
including the broadcasts.
Okay.
So we actually get more people watching our broadcasts, particularly the high school football games, than normally would, say, buy the paper at the newsstand.
Let me get this straight. You have a newspaper and you also have a video version part of it?
Yeah, well, all media is now multimedia.
I
if
know,
you want to
I
survive, so-
get you. Okay, it's a package deal.
Yeah, so for example, we do a show every week where I interview the mayors and supervisors. Here's my interviews. So what's happening? That's it.
That's
And then
it.
I let them talk.
Well, see, I do the same thing with you. See, I got no questions.
Right, yeah. but then, so we play that. We play that on the air, and then we do a transcript in the paper. So people can consume it any way that they want.
There you go. Yeah, newspapers have gotten thinner and thinner and thinner these years around.
They have gotten thinner and thinner, and that's bad. You know why that's bad? And now I'm going to put on my public historian.
Please do.
So I am a deputy historian for the town of Mendon, and I do a lot of research, not just for the town, but really for the entire Western New York region. And I rely on newspapers to really get as close to the original source as possible. When you're doing research on 150, 200-year-old events, you can't interview the people anymore. They don't exist.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, although there may be some people in Lilydale who say you could. But it's hard. So the best way to do that is just to read the newspaper, see what people thought. I mean, obviously the newspaper may have a bias in it, especially if you go back far enough, because papers were normally, say, political organs.
And very social, too.
Yes, yes.
You know, Mr. and Mrs. Carosa were visiting their sister in Florida and now have returned. I don't know how many little things I've seen like that back in the 20s.
Yes, yes. Everything. And those are very good from a historian's standpoint on giving you a feel for what things are like. And when I researched the book on Lafayette, it's important to understand what the nation, not just Western New York, which is what I focused on, but the nation as a whole, what was going on. It was called the era of good feelings. And I'll give you an example. James Monroe was president at that time. He ran for re-election in 1820. Do you know who his opponent was?
1820?
I'll give you the answer. Nobody.
Oh!
It was the only uncontested presidential election outside of George Washington's re-election. So the country was so together, so one at that point in time, they didn't even bother running an opponent. Things were going that good. Everyone was happy. They were cheerful. And the invitation to bring Lafayette in, really, they had been working on that for several years. Monroe knew Lafayette. A lot of the founding fathers obviously knew Lafayette, and a few of them were still alive, including John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. They were still alive at that point. They wanted to bring Lafayette in sort of as a final goodbye tour, not just for Lafayette, to honor Lafayette, but to honor the veterans of the American Revolution, who were just really at the point.
So let's back up the tape a little
Sure.
bit. There are people that maybe aren't quite familiar with Marquis Lafayette, de Lafayette, is it?
Yes.
That's proper. And his role in America, because he was kind of famous back in France in his own right prior to coming to America.
He was a Marquis. That wasn't his name, that was his title. Just
So what does that mean, Marquis?
It's just an aristocratic title. So he was born of wealth, and his father died early. His mother remarried into another wealthy family. Lafayette actually was educated,
Did he go to Canisius College? No.
Actually, I think he went to the school where the Musketeers were.
Musketeers.
Yeah, so he was sort of like trained as a musketeer, or at least he was familiar with it, or maybe his stepfather was. But he had this partly a British thing. So his stepfather did not want him to go to America to fight in the American Revolution because of the British connection. So he's a teenager. He's 19 years old, and your stepfather tells you not to do something. So if anybody watches any movie anywhere involving a stepfather and a stepson at odds, what does the stepson do? Whatever he wants.
Exactly. So France was allied to the United States. Ben Franklin had been doing a lot of...
Well, so France was...
Or friendly?
They were friendly at this point. They eventually became allied. So they weren't formally allied when Lafayette came. That's one of the reasons why they didn't want him to go.
Okay, so it was...
Remember that France and England, Great Britain, they had always been at odds.
Oh, just a little bit, yeah.
And, there's always this diplomatic aspect to what's going on. So they didn't want Lafayette screwing things up. But Lafayette had his own minds. He actually bought his own boat to bring himself over.
Of course.
And he...
Doesn't everybody?
He bought... He bought supplies and all that. Now, when he came over, he wanted to be a general, but there was a rule that no foreign mercenary could come in and become a general. And so he was given a lower rank initially. But he really demonstrated his prowess in battle. He was injured in Brandywine. In fact, James Madison, the future president, was one of the people who helped him recuperate, and they became friends that way. But he was beloved by the soldiers, by the American patriots, because here's this guy. He's not even a citizen. He's not even here. He doesn't have the kind of vested interest that everybody else has. Everybody else is fighting for their lives. Lafayette is fighting for liberty, really.
And well dressed.
And well dressed too. Yes.
I always see pictures of it, in battle, or I don't know if they're real or not, but he's always like really cool.
Yeah. Well, he brought his own clothes, so he did help, like in the Valley Forge he helped give clothes to the soldiers who needed them.
Wow.
Shoes, clothes.
So what was
food.
the driving force? Just the fact, because at the time liberty was a big deal. I mean,
You have to remember what was going on. This is what I tell people. When you talk about history, you can't think in terms of today. You have to mentally
that's right.
go back in
Put
time.
yourself in those shoes.
Yeah, and at that point, there was a lot of philosophical discussion on the rights of man, the human rights. And it was important for a number of intellectuals to understand what freedom was and where freedom derives from. If you look at our own Declaration of Independence, and Thomas Jefferson, by the way, falls into the category of one of these intellectuals. He lays it out. He lays out the intellectual reason why we're having this American Revolution. And that appealed to these people in Europe, including Lafayette. And that's really what motivated here. He's saying, like, we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to do something about it. And he did.
Okay. So during the war, he leads American soldiers, right? He's a kind of a motivator. And so then how does he end up being General Lafayette?
Well, he earned his way up. He was in the end, he was leading troops in the Battle of Yorktown. So the Battle of Yorktown is, for those of you who want to write this in your scorecards at home, that's the one where we won. I mean, there were several battles that we won, but Yorktown was the one that
like a pivotal point.
Yeah. Once we got there, so he was instrumental in getting the surrender from Cornwallis. In fact, I believe that Cornwallis did not want to surrender to Washington. He wanted to surrender to Lafayette, or not Cornwallis, but his aide. Or whatever. Mm-hmm. They was very snotty and uppity, and Lafayette says, "No, this guy who's born in Washington, this is the guy you surrender to. He's in charge." So that sort of selflessness, of course Washington liked him, but the soldiers liked him too for that same sort of reason.
Yeah, he was sort of like no ego in the whole thing. He just was, like you said, had this high regard for morality and liberty and stuff. Wow.
And when he came back, it was like he was a rock star. Imagine a rock star tour in 1824 and 1825. That is Lafayette's tour through America. And he went to every single state during his stay.
Okay. All right, so we talked about the Revolutionary War. We talked about him being a teenager, coming to America and working his way up through the ranks, became a general. The war's over. Then what happens to him?
Well, he's involved a little bit in the treaties that ended the war. That's where he met Madison again. And that's where he impressed the Seneca in particular, at least some of them, maybe not all of them, with his just commonality approach to the treaties. Like, we're all one species. This is, by the way, consistent with the philosophy of the rights of man, liberty, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So he was true to his word. This was a former enemy that they were trying to bring in together. Now, there were political reasons why the Americans were trying to do that. But for Lafayette, he was doing it for philosophical reasons. And it was remembered when he came back. He met some of the Indians that he saw there. They remembered him. He remembered them. And for a time in Western New York, one of them even traveled with him from Lewiston, I think, to Lockport. But so he did that. He went back to France. Now, he wasn't really liked in France. Here's the irony of Lafayette. So he was born an aristocrat, but he championed the rights of the people. So you would think, okay, the aristocrats probably wouldn't like him for that because he's a turncoat.
Yeah.
The people didn't trust him because he was an aristocrat. So he ended up in jail.
What?
And it was Napoleon actually who actually released him at some point. He ended up in jail, but it was a kind of jail where it was in Austria, I think, and his wife and daughter went there with him to live with him in this jail. But it was
It's like the old ankle bracelet concept where
but it was a jail. I mean, it was a real jail. And it was international in controversy. Americans came there. They asked him, can we help get you released?
I've never heard this story, so I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah, no, it's a major part of his life. I mean, he, as good as he was in America, he tried to do the same thing in Europe, or at least France, and he was vilified because of it. So he actually became a member of the French version of Parliament. It was called something different. Doing this same sort of thing, just fighting for these rights for the people. Again, the establishment didn't like him. He was an outsider. He was an insider who was an outsider, and that's like the worst kind of thing.
He can't be trusted or whatever.
Yeah. You know, like where all the skeletons are hidden.
Yeah.
That's what they're worried about.
Okay. Right.
So he lost an election, and that's what allowed him to come to America in 1824.
Okay.
So he arrives in America in 1824, big, huge fanfare in New York City, travels New England down to Washington, a few states around there, and that was supposed to be it.
And the purpose of this was?
Just a farewell tour, just a thank you. Thank
Okay.
you, America. He was thanking America. America was thanking him.
So was this arranged? Like,
Yeah, he was
what,
invited
paid
by
expenses,
the.
or
He was
yeah?
invited by the president. Congress actually offered to pay his way here, but he didn't want that. So Congress approved it. The president formally invited him. It was that sort of thing. But each community developed their own way of celebrating him. So they would think of it almost like you're bidding to have him come visit you. And he would make president. He would never say no. He came with 3 companions, or two others, his son and his secretary. His secretary, Levasseur, wrote a book about it a couple years later, 1829, 5 years later, that a 2-volume book that tells about it, the entire excursion that they took. And one of the things he always said was that Lafayette had a hard time saying no. He appreciated the people so much, and he did. You read all these newspaper articles, the contemporary newspaper articles that were live, feet on the ground reporters telling you what's going on. There was this mutual celebration, Lafayette and the people he would see. They would genuinely say the kinds of things that you would expect people to say to each other when there's this high level of respect that they have. So Lafayette promised Boston that he would go to Boston at the June 17th Cornerstone celebration. So June 17th. When does he come to Erie, Pennsylvania? He's in Erie, Pennsylvania on June 3rd. It was thought that he would bypass most of western New York, or at least Chautauqua County, because he was in a hurry. He had 2 weeks to go from Erie to Boston, and it was tough. So originally the plan was for him to go to Erie, from Erie to Buffalo by boat. So it either fell through or it wasn't really ever a plan. When you read the newspaper articles, you don't know for sure. You do know that the Fredonia censor, a week before Lafayette comes, says, well, he's not going to visit here because he's got to go to Boston. But then, I'm sorry, that's 2 weeks before he comes. A week before he comes, he says, oh, you know what? Plans change. He's coming. So technically, they didn't find out until literally a day before. They didn't find out for sure.
How did they get this information back then?
The
Carrier?
The equivalent of Pony Express.
Okay.
Remember, mail was going on.
Okay.
There was mail systems going back and
All right.
forth. So, and there were constant emissaries going out from these communities to Lafayette to try to convince him to come and visit their communities. And that's what he did. And so they got together in Westfield, set up a little committee, sent their emissaries there in a carriage provided by William Peacock.
Peacock's a big name.
Yep, and he gave the carriage, and this is why I called you.
Yeah.
We're circling back here so that you understand.
That's why I said, this is a kind of interesting story.
Yeah. So I wanted to know state line. All right, is state line the line? Is it a hamlet? Is it a village? What is state line? So that's why I called you, and you provided me
Right.
good information on that. And here's the kind of coincidence. Where I'm from, the town of Mendon, we have a sign that says Lafayette stopped here. It was just a transfer from the Rochester Committee to the Canandaigua Committee.
Right.
He switched carriages. That's all he did. Not much. Kind of the same thing in state line, except in state line we do have documentation of the greeting.
Yes,
Now,
there was an assembly of key people that
Right.
met him at state line.
Right. And why did they do that, say, at state line instead of Mendon? Well, state line, you're transferring from Pennsylvania to New York. He's coming to New York for the first time. So you have to officially welcome him to New York. You know, like those big signs you see on the thruway?
Yeah.
Welcome to
New
Pennsylvania,
York.
or
Right.
Pennsylvania, depending on what direction you go. Well, this is before they had those big signs.
Right.
And also before they had the thruway.
So this is 1820.
1825. So this is
199 years ago.
yeah, June 3rd.
Okay.
So 199 plus.
Yep.
And as I like to say, this is a long day's journey into night. He woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning in Waterford, Pennsylvania, goes to Erie, leaves Erie at 3. Before sunrise, he hits state line.
Now, we're talking carriage ride.
Carriage ride, yeah. So before sunrise, he hits state line. A little bit after sunset, he makes it to Westfield. He leaves Westfield at 10 after spending 2 hours there. So how long does it take to get from Westfield to Fredonia?
15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. So let's see. He leaves Westfield at 10 p.m. on June 3rd. He arrives at Fredonia in the morning of June 4th at 2 a.m.
Oh,
4 hours. So we got to know, why did it take 4 hours to go this distance? And the distance between, say, State Line and Westfield is
8-9 miles tops.
roughly the same, let's say. It only took him, a little bit to do that. So what happened? Well, we don't know. No contemporary reports tell you why there was a delay. There was an apparent delay. Later on, reports say that his carriage broke down.
Oh,
And Lavaseur does say that the ride was extremely bumpy and uncomfortable.
well, there were really good roads. Hey, we got a phone call. You want to take a phone call?
Oh, yeah, let's take
All
a
right.
phone call.
Good morning, caller.
Sure.
Good morning, Doc, and good morning, Chris. This is Linda Spalding. Chris, I find your presentation absolutely delightful and so true. I am from South Buffalo and Lackawanna. I took piano lessons at Mount Mercy, and I lived in Lackawanna.
L.A.
And I really appreciate what you were saying about how significant the newspapers are. And they really are an endangered species, especially the locally owned ones.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't know if you've heard of Margaret Sullivan. She gave a talk here last summer at the amphitheater about the press and what's happened, and it was really fascinating. I taught her in 7th and 8th grade in Lackawanna.
Oh, wow.
So Margaret Sullivan came to the New York's, the National Society of Newspaper Columnists annual meeting in 2019 in Buffalo. And I was the president of the group at that time. Part of the deal was, I'll be president if you have your national conference in Buffalo. So she came and spoke, and my mother, who actually grew up in Lackawanna too, and her sort of had this bond, although she grew up in a different section of Lackawanna than my mother did. So that was kind of interesting there. But it's cool that there's this connection. And yes, she is a very good speaker and very well regarded within the newspaper business.
Yes. And what you were talking about, history, is so true, because my husband Doug and I used to do a lot of genealogical research, and we would go to different libraries to look at old newspapers to see what was happening. And the Westfield Library has an enormous amount of information about the history of Chautauqua County. They're Westfield newspapers.
You know, it's interesting. I would have not been able to complete this book in maybe 9 months or whatever it is that I did it, if it were not for the fact that all those library newspapers have now been digitized.
Right.
So I don't have to physically go to the places that I want to do research on. I could go to different computer sites with different newspaper articles and read the articles the way they were. Now, not all of them have been digitized. Some of the newspaper articles are lost. In fact, there's a critical piece from the Fredonia newspaper that describes Lafayette's visit there. It was a 2-page article. The first page is missing. Luckily, it was still in existence in the mid-1800s. So 1875, there's a book on the history of Chautauqua County.
Young's.
Young's book, yes. And it's repeated. They actually reprint that entire article. So we're able to see the missing page by reading that article. We don't know if the transcription is 100% perfect, but at least we get the gist of it.
Linda, there's a site, and they'll help me out on this. It's called nyshistoricnewspapers.org or something like that. And it brings up the entire map of New York State by county. And if you want to research Chautauqua County, you click on Chautauqua County, and then you put in Spalding. And then it'll bring up any articles in the last 200 years if they were digitized. And you can actually look at the newspaper. It's free of charge.
Yeah, that one's free. You could just Google it, New York Historic Newspapers. There's another one called Fulton History, also free. That one's a little bit harder to search on, but they have more newspapers. And then there's paid sites like newspapers.com. Part of it's free. Most of it you have to pay for, to subscribe. That one's even easier to do searches on. But those other two, those first two, are good enough to
Right,
get
and
started.
they cover about 10 different newspapers, I think, from Chautauqua County over the years. Unfortunately, Ripley Review never got digitized, and they're all in 8-carton boxes in my office. And I have to pull out the original paper to look at it.
Well, you could probably figure out a way to digitize it.
I just need some money, that's all.
Well, no, you could get a grant.
Well, yeah, money.
Okay. Not your money, somebody else's
Somebody
money.
else's money. So that's a project we've been talking about. So anyways, so Lynn, anything else?
Well, I just wanted to tell you, Doc,
Yes, ma'am.
that I went to the Canisius High School was always known for their passion play.
Okay.
And when I was a senior in high school, we went to Canisius for the passion play, and we couldn't believe how polite the boys were.
Of course we
Oh,
were.
my gosh. They opened the door for us.
Yes,
We were just amazed.
You had those Jesuits right behind you with a stick or something. They made us polite. We had no choice. I had
Yeah.
a good experience there. Oh, I didn't know
All
that.
right. Well, thank you. Have a great weekend. It's been a delight listening to this whole presentation.
Thanks, Linda. You take care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
I have to tell you a tale of two cultures. When I was in Buffalo, I was taught to open doors.
Yeah.
When I moved to Rochester, I thought I was being polite, opening the doors for the girls and everything.
You're being
I
fresh.
got hollered at for being whatever, male
Chauvinist?
chauvinist. Or,
Yeah,
well, I thought that was what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I
I was a
know.
little kid. I was only 10 years old. You know.
Oh, this is a fun presentation today. All right, so let's talk about why you got involved with this book to start with. I mean, something must have triggered your mind.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, not everybody just wants to sit down and write a book. I mean, how many pages is that? It looks like about 150.
No, it's 260. Who knows?
Obviously, I didn't count both sides.
Yeah, like I said, Lafayette stopped in Mendon. They put a marker down
Okay.
in Mendon, and I wrote an article, a column on some of the myths associated with Lafayette stopping in Mendon, and it got a great response. And I'm thinking, there might be other stories like this in all the other little towns. And here you go and you say, okay, we know that not every newspaper can cover the towns that he stopped at. There are newspapers in most of the towns,
Right.
but they don't have the staff to go in and do the deep dive research on the history necessarily. So I said, why don't I do that? Now, I've been writing books on Western New York history, so this is really in line with that series of books that I've written. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it in time for the book to be out for the 200th anniversary of his
Right.
landing in America, which was August of this year. That's the 200th anniversary. He didn't land this year, 200 years ago.
Gotcha.
So that was my goal. That's why I had to do it so fast. That's why. So people like you, historians, I would call
Sure,
them up.
no
and-
problem. We'll just go dig.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'd say, I need the information yesterday. The book's coming out, and it's. I got a lot of help. I mean, all the historians in these towns very excited
Yes.
about this going out. I mean, it promotes what they do. What I like to say about the book, for a non-historian, regular person, you'll read it, and I hope you'll enjoy it. But for a historian, there's about 20 or 30 reference notes in each chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for a historian, it's a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And local historians can really kind of dig deep down into some of the other stories that are kind of affiliated with Lafayette. Like, I do it in the book to some extent. For example, I talk about the myth of gas lighting during Lafayette's time. So for those of you who don't know, gas lighting really centered around Fredonia. In 1825 is when it started. Lafayette visits in 1825, but the gas lighting didn't appear until a month or two later. And but it's not reported that way. It's reported that Fredonia was lit up with gas when Lafayette came. It was lit up. So was Westfield, but they were bonfires, candles, things like that.
Bonfire is what you read. That's what you see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I talk a little bit about that, but local historians could expand on that more. The people involved. So Walter Smith out of Dunkirk and Fredonia, or Thomas Campbell, or William Peacock. These are names that are important in the Lafayette story, but they're also important in the local stories, not just the local towns, but also the counties.
Absolutely.
And people don't remember those names, or they were never taught those names. And in my mind, I think, we need to kind of remember what those people there were. We also need to remember what this place was. When I talk about Dunkirk, people are thinking, Dunkirk. Yeah, of course he's going to go to Dunkirk. Who wouldn't go to Dunkirk? Why didn't he go to Jamestown? Those are the two biggest cities in Chautauqua County. Well, in 1825, they were barely there.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamestown might have been a little bit, but Dunkirk was actually going down because they were disappointed that it didn't become the western terminus of the Erie Canal. So it was dense forest still. The only reason why Lafayette went there is because he needed to catch a boat to Buffalo. And he didn't want to ride on that bumpy road all the way back. Yeah. So this is what people have to remember, that these were, in particular Dunkirk, that's the last vestige of the true pioneer in Western New York. We were just on the cusp of moving from, pioneers to farmers, more of a especially with the coming of the Erie Canal.
Yeah.
When the Erie Canal came, then you had all these sophisticates from New England
brought in a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, they expected luxury, whereas the pioneers, I can live on the land that we have. I'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was then, and that's what you have to remember when you go back in history. You've got to understand that that's what the people were like back then.
So Jeff has your book cover up, and so there's a little bit of a yellow road showing, or pathway shows, and it starts at State Line, which is part of Ripley, New York, just down the road. State Line is actually like a Four Corners, more or less, and it's the entry point to New York State. There's a church, there's a little store, there's some houses and things. It's all part of Ripley. Do you know what Ripley was called before Ripley was Ripley?
You can tell me.
It's Quincy. The actual village was Quincy, so he came through State Line, through into Quincy, and then further on into Westfield.
Or Portland, as it was back then.
That is true, and Ripley was part of Portland before it became Ripley, and then Westfield became part of Westfield from Ripley to Portland. Chris, we have about a minute and a half, so I want you to promote wherever they can get your book and all that good stuff.
Well, you can buy the book pretty much anywhere you go. You want to go, just go to a bookstore. You can order it there. Or if you use Amazon, you can order it from Amazon. It's pretty much available anywhere.
For the radio folks, let's give the title.
The title of the book, I'll have to read it because it's
Please
long.
do.
It's History Unleashed, Lafayette's Remarkable Tour of the Greater Western New York Region.
Okay. By you.
By me,
Okay.
yes, Christopher Carosa.
And you also do a weekly TV show called
The State of Greater Western New York Report.
And you can get that on YouTube,
You
right?
can get that on YouTube or stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com.
All right. So, Chris, this has been a lot of fun talking with you, and both historians, and we've been finding we have a lot of commonalities, and that's the way the world is, more and more. And thanks for coming by and sharing your story. It's going to be a 200-year-old story next year, next June, and hopefully people will look at your book and enjoy the history of our area here, because it is pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
Thank you, Doc, for having me. It's been a delight,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we will see each other.
I'm sure we will. We'll keep in touch. All right, folks. Well, remember that this is Columbus Day weekend, and I don't even know how old. 1492, he came over here, and so we're not that old, but we're pretty old as far as the country goes. You go to Europe, it's a whole other matter. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels. My guest today was Chris Carosa, author of History Unleashed. It's the story of General Lafayette coming through Western New York in 1825, 199 years ago. So get a hold of the book if you like. Maybe you'll find it in some of the libraries as well. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your extended weekend and Columbus Day weekend. And we're going to do this next week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye now.